My cheating wife destroyed our family and ruined Christmas magic. And now she thinks I should just sit back and accept it? I am 36, and my wife, who is 37, started a new job about 4.5 months ago. With that job came new friends. I met them once, and let me tell you, I did not like them one bit. They were loud, opinionated, and the kind of women who would yell at you for opening a door for them, or not opening one. Either way, you could not win. I laughed it off at first, but after 2 months, I started noticing some strange changes in how my wife acted. We have been married for 11 years and have 2 kids, a 10-year-old girl and an 8-year-old boy. But things at home were getting worse. She started accusing me of the most ridiculous things, like how I was born evil because men throughout history oppressed women. What? It did not matter what I did for her. Things she used to appreciate, now they just sparked arguments. And I will tell you, her reasons made no sense. I kept calm and tried to be patient. Whenever we fought, I would usually end up saying something like, "I have not done anything to hurt you. The only thing I am guilty of is loving you." She would mumble something, and the next day, she would be right back at it with the same nonsense, just dressed up a little different. About 5 weeks ago, I felt it in my gut. Something was seriously wrong. One night, she came home late, way past midnight. She had not called, and I could not reach her. When she walked in, she was clearly drunk and distant. The next day, she brushed it off, told me I was too controlling and dramatic. That started happening more often. I tried to check her phone a few times, but found nothing obvious. I am pretty sure she had deleted a lot. But then, I stumbled on a conversation with one of her new friends. They were talking about how my wife planned to ask me for an open relationship. Right then, I knew I was not crazy. She was cheating. She even set a date to bring it up with me, the second Monday of December. Our kids are with their grandparents for Christmas. We were both supposed to join them today. This morning, while we were having breakfast, she casually drops the bomb. She asked what I think about open relationships, like it is just some random thought she had. Luckily, I was ready. I recorded the whole thing. I had read enough stories to know there was not much hope of fixing this. The best I could hope for was walking away with some dignity. From that moment on, it was all about protecting myself and our kids. I kept my cool. No yelling, no shouting. I just locked in, jaw tight, and started asking questions. Her confidence vanished the second she saw my face. "Who is he?" I asked. "What do you mean?" she said, trying to play dumb. "If you want to talk about this, do not insult me. Be honest. If you cannot be honest, then what is the point?" "I do not know what you are talking about. If you lie to me right now, this conversation ends, and so does our marriage. I know you are hiding something. It is obvious. So, who is he?" "Oh, there is more than one, huh?" I cut her off. "Stop lying. You have already shattered my trust. Just tell me the truth, or we are done. No fights, no discussions, just divorce. Got it? Say it. Say you understand." She hesitated, then nodded. "I understand." She admitted to 2 flings while she was out with her friends. I asked their names, if they were married, if they used protection. Both of them were married with kids. Then she told me she planned to spend time with a coworker, and she was not planning to stop. She said it made her feel good, and I had no right to control her. What the hell? I asked who the coworker was. She gave me his name and even his wife's. He is married, but she claims they have an open relationship, something she is now apparently interested in. She said she wanted to introduce me to some of her co-workers, one of whom, she claimed, was into me. I had met that friend. No way. Not even with a 10-foot pole. I told her I was not interested. I asked for her phone, and this time, she handed it over and gave me the unlock code. When Jenny went to the bathroom, I locked myself in my office. A few minutes later, I heard her knocking on the door, but by then I had already launched a data recovery app on my phone. Half an hour later, I had more painful evidence than I ever wanted. I also installed a spyware app on her phone. When I came out, I calmly handed her the phone and told her to leave. She argued, yelled, and accused me of controlling her, saying that men always hold women back. Jenny said I never loved her and that she had every right to do what she wanted. She expected me to just accept it, calling the situation a minor issue. I barely responded, just quietly packed her things while she screamed at me. By the time we got to the front door, I stood there silently until her voice wore out. Eventually, she left reluctantly to go to her parents' house. As she walked down the stairs, I told her, "You're free now. Do whatever you want. I'm not controlling you anymore. My lawyer will contact you in January." She turned to say something, but I just closed and locked the door. Later, I saw her discussing everything with her friends. They praised her for standing up for herself and told her she deserved better. They were convinced I was bluffing and wouldn't follow through. "Oh, I will." What really bothered me was something else. Her friends told Jenny that if things got tough, she could just accuse me of domestic violence. One of them even shared how she did it to her ex and got everything she wanted in the divorce. The next day, I arranged to have cameras installed in the house. I record everything now. I've never threatened Jenny in any way, but I realized I needed proof if things escalated. Later, I saw Jenny texting her lover again. They planned to meet at a hotel. I was stunned. I went online and found the guy's wife. It was easier than I thought. I added her on Facebook, and a couple of hours later, we talked on the phone. I told her everything, including the upcoming hotel meeting. She thanked me and hung up. A few hours later, she sent me a video. The wife stormed into the hotel. From the yelling, it was clear this wasn't the first time her husband had cheated. "You're doing this again," she screamed. "I told you it's over if you ever do this again." At the end of the video, my wife was sitting at the edge of the bed, pulling on her shirt while insults, and even a few hits, rained down on her. What I saw made me sick. I sent Jenny a message. "I saw the hotel video. Don't ever come near me again." It felt like she wasn't even grounded in reality. She didn't seem to understand that we were getting divorced. I went into Jenny's family chat on WhatsApp and wrote that we were divorcing because of her affair. I thanked them for welcoming me into their family and left the group. My phone lit up with calls and messages almost instantly, but I didn't read or respond to any of them. I just couldn't. I called my parents and told them everything. My dad let Jenny know that she wasn't welcome for Christmas. I'm staying with my parents now. My boss gave me time off until mid-January to sort things out. Jenny kept discussing the situation with her friends, but I could see her growing desperation. I don't think she realized she had lost her family. Her friends and lover didn't actually care about her. On Christmas Eve, Jenny showed up at my parents' house, demanding to celebrate with us. My dad threatened to call the police if she didn't leave. Right now, I'm sitting here, tears running down my face, searching for divorce lawyers online. I thought I was already at rock bottom, but the real pain hit me the moment I arrived at my parents' house. I just can't wrap my head around it. Reading their messages, seeing them tear my heart and soul apart with a smile, it crushed me. Divorce or not, she seemed proud of what she did. My wife was once loving, caring, attentive, my best friend. Now she was selfish, narcissistic by nature. After her last message, she stopped texting me. The pain sometimes feels unbearable. I wish this had never happened. I wish I could go back to the way things were, but I can't do that to myself. This is the worst Christmas of my life. I couldn't hold it in and told the kids that their mom didn't want to be with us anymore. I explained that she wanted to be with other men and that we were getting a divorce. Naturally, they were confused. Thankfully, my parents were there to help, wrapping them in love and care while I felt like a broken shell. I'll try to pull myself together for the kids, but I'm never going back to her. I probably should have waited until after Christmas and taken them to therapy first. I don't know what happened. I just blurted it out when they asked when their mom was coming. I wouldn't be able to look at myself in the mirror if I ever took her back. The level of disrespect and cruelty is unforgivable. I feel lost. I just don't understand. Why does she think she can demand anything from me after all this? Is she mentally ill or something? Sorry for the rambling. I just needed to get this out. By the way, I found out that I won't have any legal trouble over the surveillance. I spoke to a lawyer a friend recommended. The phone is mine, the plan is in my name. Yes, my wife uses it, but I own it. It's perfectly legal to monitor my own equipment. I became obsessed with my wife's messages with her friends. There were so many insane and hurtful things in them. But what finally broke me was how she described, in the harshest terms, how our marriage, especially the kids, was a burden. She said they stopped her from becoming a successful woman and reaching her full potential. She painted me, her husband, as an oppressor who held her back from a good life. She blamed our family for keeping her from having a successful career, casual flings, and everything else she thought she deserved. I just broke. I couldn't handle it. I spent the next 30 hours reading and rereading every single line of their conversations. The more I thought about it, the more I realized she never gave any specifics about how we were supposedly holding her back. There were no examples, no justifications, just empty words. In reality, I never stopped her from doing anything. I paid for almost everything. Her part-time job's paycheck barely covered anything. I supported her hobbies, dreams, and ambitions. Even when she bounced from one ridiculous self-help course to another, I encouraged her. She never finished a single one. I tried every day to show her that I loved and appreciated what she did for our family. I planned romantic dates, stood by her when she needed me. If that's oppression, I'd gladly take more of it. Anyway, I'm getting off track. At some point during those 30 hours, I just blacked out. When I came to, my 3 closest friends were in the kitchen with my dad, cooking dinner. I've known these guys since childhood. Let's call them Mike, Bob, and Frank. My dad invited them over and filled them in on what happened. By that evening, I broke down again. Mike is a former military guy who lost his left arm below the elbow. We were all there for him during his recovery when his wife left him. Thankfully, they didn't have kids. Mike eventually adopted 2 kids and met a wonderful woman a few years ago. He's doing well now. He set up a Zoom call with the counselor who helped him through his rehabilitation. Even though the counselor specializes in working with amputees, he helped me process what I was going through emotionally. Hearing his stories shocked me. Apparently, it's not uncommon for wives to leave husbands after they get injured. He said that my soul was deeply connected to my role as a husband. Now that part of me is gone. Just like amputees feel phantom pain from a missing limb, I'll feel phantom pain from the dead part of my identity. We talked for hours, and since then, I've been feeling better. Bob works as some kind of manager at an IT security company. He never really talks about his job, and honestly, I have no clue what he does, but he's doing well for himself. Anyway, he called the law firm his company has on retainer, and by Sunday morning, I was speaking to a lawyer I could never have dreamed of affording. Bob's always been the nerdy one in our group. He got bullied a lot. He told me not to worry about the bill. He'd cover it. Said he was happy to finally pay me back for all the times I took the hits for him growing up. Frank's a teacher at a private school. He's married and has 7 kids. Yeah, you read that right, 7. My kids absolutely adore him and his whole family. Frank's been making sure my kids are taken care of while I try to get my life back on track. Yesterday was a whirlwind. It started with an STD test first thing in the morning. And guess what? That woman gave me chlamydia. Just fantastic. Another test in 6 months. When I found out, my self-pity morphed into pure rage. That was it. Game over. Now I'm going for full custody. She's not getting a dime if I can help it. The lawyer Bob hooked me up with managed to track down the ex-husband of my wife's feminist friend, the one who bragged about screwing him over. Turns out it was easy to find him through court records. I wouldn't have even thought of that. I called him on WhatsApp. He thanked me for reaching out and told me everything his ex-wife had put him through. Now I know what to expect. It was gut-wrenching to hear how he ended up homeless and barely saw his kids for 4 years. All because of her lies. I know I'm at a legal disadvantage as a man, but I'll make sure I have plenty of evidence. My lawyer suggested we go on the offensive with a restraining order against my wife due to her negative and aggressive views towards men, especially for the sake of our son. Being raised in a household with openly anti-male parents is obviously harmful, so I'll be pushing for full custody. I told the lawyer to move forward. She expects to have the restraining order filed by today. Later, I called my wife over Zoom. Keep in mind, she hadn't reached out since she showed up at my parents' house to argue with my dad. She hadn't contacted the kids or anyone else. It's pretty clear she doesn't care about any of us. The call was bizarre. She was wearing heavy makeup and a low-cut top. I haven't seen her this dressed up in years. Throughout the call, she tried to provoke me, get under my skin. But I kept my cool. My lawyer had coached me on what to ask her. Apparently, courts look favorably on any attempts at a peaceful divorce before the official filing. I recorded the call and even told her I was doing so. But of course, my wife didn't disappoint. The first thing out of her mouth, She started talking about how there are two types of sticks. One stays the same size, whether it's working or not. The other shrinks and grows depending on the situation. What the? Who starts a call with her husband like that? Then she said she was looking forward to exploring that fact more personally. I just told her I wasn't interested in her little hobby and that I only cared about discussing the divorce. When I didn't take the bait and refused to get angry like she clearly wanted, her hostility surfaced almost immediately. At one point, she said she needed to use the bathroom and muted her mic. I watched her consult with her friends about how to handle me. She threw insults at me multiple times, just for being a man. The whole call felt surreal, like she thought this was some kind of game. It was as if she believed she was in control and that I had no choice but to bend to whatever she wanted. We made no progress with the divorce, so I made up my mind. Fine, it'll be a contested one. Oh, and by the way, you gave me chlamydia. Unlike you, I haven't slept with anyone else, so you might want to see a doctor. She just scowled like, yeah, sure. I believe you. I have no idea what's going on with her, and at this point, I don't care anymore. I sent the recording to my lawyer, and she was, well, let's say shocked doesn't quite cover it. At this point, everyone thinks my wife has lost her mind. Maybe she has. Since I own her phone and the plan, I can use the chat logs in court. Like I said, it's completely legal to monitor my own device as much as I want. After the call, her little clique had another heated discussion, but I finally stopped caring. I don't give a damn what they talk about anymore. My lawyer's confident we can win this if I haven't left anything out. So, that's where I am now. It still hurts, but I can treat the pain like phantom pain. Nothing but echoes of something already gone. I've stopped feeling sorry for myself. I'm all in now, burning every bridge if I have to. I need to protect myself and my kids. I'm going to be okay. My kids will be okay. I'll make sure they get as much therapy as they need. Soon enough, my wife will just be a distant memory, and I'll start building a new, better life. Today I found out she knew about the chlamydia and got treated but never told me. What? A. Bit asterisk asterisk ch. She joked and laughed about it with her trashy friends. Unbelievable. I wish this never happened. I wanted my family to stay whole, to grow old with my wife while we watched our kids build their own lives. There are no winners here. My wife has gone completely off the rails, like a runaway train wrecking everything in its path. I have no idea what's wrong with her. She refuses to see a therapist or acknowledge that anything's happening. She still shows zero regret or remorse. She acts like I'm the crazy one for not understanding why she did this. Since that day, she's barely spoken to the kids. I'm divorcing her and moving forward because I don't have a choice. Her actions left me no options, and there's no way back now. I wish to God this wasn't happening. I'll never trust her again. Every night, I fall asleep in tears, grieving the fact that my kids will grow up without a real relationship with their mother. How do you answer your child when they ask, "Why doesn't Mommy want to see me? Doesn't she love me anymore?" Seriously, what the hell do I say to that? If anyone knows, please tell me, because I sure as hell don't. Every morning, I tell myself my heart can't break into more pieces. And every day, I find out I was wrong. My wife still doesn't know I can read her messages. Or maybe she just doesn't care. She's convinced I'll never leave, that my reaction to everything is unjustified. She continues to trash me, our marriage, and our kids in conversations with her friends. I don't get it. Why does she hate us so much? We didn't do anything she accuses us of. As I mentioned, my lawyer got a temporary restraining order against her. But there was a hearing yesterday morning, and since there haven't been any direct threats recently, it wasn't extended. My lawyer suggested using the fact that she knowingly infected me as leverage to try to push for an uncontested divorce. I'd prefer for us to part ways amicably. It makes me sick that I have to see her as an enemy and expect the worst. If she wanted to leave, I could accept that. But why force me into this hostile, drawn-out mess? Why is she doing everything she can to hurt the people who once loved her most? What's the end game here? If this goes to court, I'll probably have to pay her a lump sum for her share of the house and other things. Most likely, I won't have to pay alimony, and, given her lack of interest in the kids, I'm hoping to win full custody if this goes to court. Either way, my lawyer suggested trying to get her to agree to an amicable divorce. I agreed, and we might meet with her and her representatives sometime this week. The ex-husband of that lying harpy spent New Year's Eve with me and the kids. The injustice of the legal system toward fathers is absolutely insane. I have no illusions now about getting a fair trial if this goes to court. His ex lied through her teeth, and the court just took it as fact, no evidence required. The guy has barely seen his kids since being forced to pay crushing child support, and it's nearly broken him. He said he thought about ending it all more than once. With the information I gave him, he finally feels like he has some hope. We both talked to my lawyer. She advised him to hold on to the evidence I shared. If he acts on it now, the man-haters will realize we have access to all their messages. My lawyer's goal is to get me divorced as quickly and painlessly as possible. Right now, I just hope I can get away from her. If she decides to fight, this could drag on forever. I'm exhausted. I just want to be free. Yesterday afternoon, I had a meeting with my lawyer and my wife. She showed up 30 minutes late without a lawyer and said she didn't need one. Instead, she brought along one of her new friends. I can't share all the details until this is over, but my lawyer gave me very clear instructions on how to act. I wasn't supposed to show any negative reactions to anything they said. If they spoke to me directly, I had to respond politely or at least neutrally. If my lawyer placed one or both hands on the table, palms down, I was to stay completely silent. So, they arrived late. The friend, let's just call her the harpy, immediately started throwing insults, trying to get a rise out of me. My wife did the same. My lawyer tried to steer the conversation toward discussing the divorce, but they just laughed and kept joking about me. It was awkward as hell to sit through. It became clear my wife still thinks this is all a joke. She genuinely believes I can't divorce her. In her mind, only she can decide when we divorce, and if it happens, she'll get everything. I sat there thinking, what the hell is going on? I barely spoke, answering a handful of times with things like, yeah, you're probably right, or I don't know. Eventually, once they got tired of mocking me, my lawyer took the floor and began presenting our settlement offer. One of the first things she said was that I was willing to be generous to ensure a quick and peaceful resolution. I would pay my wife $60,000 for her share of the house, investments, etc. Before my lawyer could even finish, my wife and her friend practically jumped out of their seats. Egged on by the harpy, my wife immediately asked, "Where do I sign?" My lawyer repeatedly asked if she wanted to review the rest of the settlement agreement first. But no, she was ready to sign right there and then. She even started asking how soon she could expect the money because they were heading to the bar afterward. Seriously? That's when my lawyer quietly called someone over, whispered something, and suddenly, the room was buzzing with activity. An older woman asked for our passports and had us sign 2 copies of the documents. When we were done, she stamped them, and I later found out she was a notary. My lawyer, with her palms almost pressed flat against the table, thanked my wife and her friend, letting them know we were finished. They left, and my wife didn't even bother taking her copy of the agreement. She just left it on the table. My lawyer looked at her hands and then at me. It was clear she didn't want me to say anything until they were out of the building. When we saw them cross the parking lot, she finally turned to me and said, "Congratulations." She went on to say this was the strangest divorce negotiation she had ever been a part of. She also told me she wouldn't send my wife's copy of the agreement until after a judge's hearing or if my wife hired a lawyer to request it. Until then, the document would just sit forgotten in her drawer. On the surface, it looks like I'll get through this divorce much easier than I initially feared. But my wife could still hire a lawyer and contest the agreement. My lawyer promised to pull every string she could to get a judge's hearing as soon as possible. Most likely, it'll be a video call. I also hired a private investigator. Yesterday, the PI sent me photos of my wife with 2 different men at 2 different bars. She went to a hotel with one of them. So, I've already gathered a lot of evidence just in case I need it, and I hope it will be enough if this goes to court. My wife signed a document granting me full custody with no alimony or further obligations. Just a one-time payment of $60,000. I'm free. Now I just need to find the money. But I have a plan. Bob offered to lend me the full amount if necessary. I still can't believe this is real. Part of me is waiting for the moment she storms in with some aggressive lawyer. accusing me of harassment or child abuse. My lawyer advised me to stay under the radar, keep paying for everything I normally do, don't rock the boat, avoid talking to anyone we both know, and just wait quietly. No reactions, no sudden moves until the court date. All I could do now is be patient and hope for the best. So, yesterday was the hearing, and I'm essentially divorced. The official paperwork will take another 4 to 6 months, but at this point, nothing can change the outcome unless my wife and I both decide to halt the process. I'm so exhausted, I don't even know how many days I've gone without sleep. If I ramble, I apologize. I just need to get this off my chest and release some of the pressure. Hopefully, I'll finally get some sleep. My incredible lawyer managed to secure an early hearing, just 12 days after filing the papers. I have no doubt she pulled some strings to make that happen. Here's what's been going on. The past few days have been pure chaos. Friday morning, a whole team of police officers knocked on my door with a search warrant for the house. I had no idea what was happening. I was terrified for the kids, so I asked if I could take them outside while they searched. Thankfully, they agreed. They didn't explain much, but handed me a copy of the warrant. I was so shocked, I couldn't even understand what I was reading. Turns out, everyone who suggested my wife's behavior might be prohibited substances related was right, at least partially. The police tore through the house, flipping everything upside down. I called my lawyer, and she spoke to them, but the warrant was legitimate. There was nothing we could do at the time. It wasn't until later that I remembered I had cameras set up everywhere in case of false accusations. I have video and audio of everything, so maybe I'll file a complaint later. Honestly, I don't know if I have the energy or willpower to bother. I might just take the win and move on. At that point, I didn't know that my ex-wife and 3 of her friends had taken my car, got high and drunk, and crashed at high speed into someone's house. They were all arrested. The crash was severe, and one of the passengers is in critical condition. No idea if she'll survive. It's the same woman who bragged about screwing over her ex-husband in court. Let's call her ex-husband Henry. Henry and I have grown really close through all of this, but I'll get to that later. Thankfully, the police didn't find anything during the search. I gave a statement explaining that my ex-wife no longer lives here and had moved in with her parents. I told them I had no idea what she was doing with her life. No, I hadn't given Henrietta permission to drive my car or anything else. When I got home, I completely broke down. The house was a wreck. It felt like the final straw. The only thing I could think to do was call my dad. He came over and took me and the kids to stay with him and Mom. Later that day, my dad gathered a whole group, 26 friends and family members. While I sat in the backyard eating my mom's amazing food and feeling sorry for myself, they cleaned and organized my entire house. They went through every room, washed all the laundry, did the dishes, scrubbed the furniture, and even wiped down the ceilings and walls. The house has never been this clean. They fixed all the little things, loose doorknobs, leaky faucets, you name it. I couldn't believe they did this for me. I have no idea how I'll ever repay them. Over the weekend, I went from seriously considering ending it all to feeling okay. All thanks to them. Meanwhile, the police found a stash of prohibited substances at Henrietta's house. Her boyfriend wasn't even there. No nanny. Just the kids alone at home. CPS took the children, and by Saturday, Henry was granted emergency custody after showing the judge our messages. Combined with the fact that the kids were abandoned and the massive amount of prohibited substances found, he got custody without much trouble. Henry is over the moon. He hadn't seen his kids much at all in the last 5 years. He had been saving up for a court case against Henrietta when all of this happened. He still has to go to court to make custody permanent, but his chances are excellent. Everyone expects Henrietta to end up in prison, and if her friend doesn't survive, it could be for a long time. After that, Henry plans to sue for child support and compensation for everything she put him through. But honestly, I don't think he's counting on it. From what I can tell, he doesn't want to waste any more time fighting. He just wants to be with his kids and give them a good life. It's obvious Henrietta had been neglecting them for years. Bob, being the incredible friend he is, found Henry an apartment to rent through a friend of his. I realized I know practically nothing about Bob's personal or professional life. I should probably change that. But back to the point. Henrietta was the one driving during the crash. Everyone in the car was badly injured. And because prohibited substances and alcohol were involved, search warrants were issued for all the participants' residences. Since my ex-wife is still technically registered at my address, that's how I ended up involved. On Sunday, I made the decision to sell the house and move as soon as possible. I'm terrified this could happen again. That same day, her parents called me. Their house had been searched too. They visited their daughter in jail on Saturday and now don't believe a word she says. Long story short, they came to talk to me on Sunday, and it turns out she had been lying to them about everything. All those nights she went out and cheated. She told them she was staying at my place and that we were working things out. They had no idea what was really happening or what she had done to me and the kids. They knew she cheated but thought it was a one-time drunken mistake. That's what she told them. On Monday, my wife called trying to get me to bail her out. $15,000. Her parents had already refused. After speaking with my lawyer, she prepared a document stating that the bail amount would be deducted from the $60,000 settlement, pending her court appearance. If the bail was refunded, it would go directly to her mother, not her, so it wouldn't be recklessly spent. My lawyer didn't want my wife to have any excuse to skip the divorce hearing, so she suggested I bail her out. My ex didn't have much choice. She signed everything. She was released on Monday afternoon. According to her parents, she refused to comply with the conditions they set for her to continue living with them. Things like quitting prohibited substances, going to rehab, full transparency, cutting ties with toxic friends, and so on. By Tuesday, she left their house and supposedly moved in with one of her friends. She didn't show up to the custody hearing. After presenting all the evidence to the judge, including everything that happened over the weekend, I was granted full custody of the kids. The agreement we initially settled on was approved. It all happened quickly, in under 30 minutes. The official paperwork will take 4 to 6 months, but at this stage, nothing can change the outcome. It's done. Now here I am, unable to sleep. Everyone congratulated me like I won some grand victory, but I don't feel like I won anything at all. All I feel is pain. I still love my wife. I know it's over, and nothing will change that. But up until recently, she was my best friend, my soulmate. Even though my love for her feels shattered, it's still there. And that hurts like hell. There are no winners here. I lost. She lost. The kids lost. I have no words for it. It feels like I'm being asked to celebrate losing both legs, except thanks to my actions. One was amputated below the knee, and the other above. When people congratulate me, it feels like they're praising me for saving part of my kneecap, but I still lost both legs, so I can't sleep. And when I do, I have awful nightmares and wake up drenched in sweat. Sorry for rambling. Today I got a call from the hospital. My ex-wife was admitted. I'm still listed as her emergency contact, and she's still on my health insurance. There was a fight. She lost several teeth, broke her jaw, and will need to stay under observation for a few days. I called her parents. When we arrived, we found out that some of her new friends had beaten her up. Rumor has it they found out Henry had copies of Henrietta's messages bragging about what she did to him. Messages that were sent from my wife's phone. They assumed my wife had given them to him. That led to the beating and her being kicked out of their group. Somehow, she still doesn't realize I can track her phone. I'll keep doing what I've been doing, paying for her insurance, phone, and whatever else until I get the final papers in hand. I won't believe this is over until I physically see those documents. Right now, she has nothing. She asked if she could come home. I told her, not a chance in hell. Her mother won't give her a dime until she gets clean and stays that way for at least a year. They offered to let her live with them, but set strict conditions. If she doesn't accept, I have no idea how she's going to manage. For the first time, I saw a glimpse of remorse. But I feel like she only regrets that she can't keep living the way she was. She said, "I'm sorry I ruined everything, but it didn't feel genuine." She barely made eye contact the entire time I was there. It hurt to see her like that. I wanted to protect her, but she's an adult. Her behavior is dangerous and unpredictable. I have to protect my kids. Besides, she didn't ask about the custody hearing or her friend who's still in critical condition. She just sat there, seeming annoyed. I still can't understand how it came to this. She lost everything. She destroyed her family and hurt so many people. For what? A high and a few random hookups? I'm cutting off all communication with her until she gets clean and stays clean for a long time. I can't handle anything else. I'm in a bit of a daze, exhausted, drained. I can barely sleep, and when I do, the nightmares find me. The good news is the kids are doing better. My dad's been a hero. I honestly don't know what I'd do without him. We took the kids up to his cabin for the weekend, just me and the kids skiing. It was amazing. I barely talk to my ex anymore, but I did speak with one of her friends, the one who was in critical condition. She's awake now, but she looks terrible. I talked to her nurse, who told me it's heartbreaking that no one had visited her the entire time she was there. The hospital reached out to her family, but they flat out refused to see her. I started worrying that the people who attacked my ex might come after me and the kids, so I asked the nurse if I could speak to her. She agreed. I know I probably shouldn't have, but I needed to ask what had been happening since my wife got involved with them. First thing she said was, "You want me to make you feel good for $20? So yeah, that was awkward. I offered her $50 for information instead. Turns out all of my ex's friends were on prohibited substances. Henrietta dragged my wife into the group, even though the other two didn't want her there. She convinced her to try first time and hang out with them. They were selling themselves to pay for their habits. Henrietta was the ringleader. They hid behind feminist slogans like "my body, my choice." But as she put it, it's all BS to protect our fragile egos. My wife bought into the lie completely and became addicted pretty fast, just like the rest of them. Once she was hooked, she started selling herself for prohibited substances too. It's gut-wrenching to know that the person you loved more than anything ended up like this. Now I understand why she only ever asked for money. No one visited her because she lied, stole, and betrayed everyone around her. No one wants anything to do with her. She told me, without blinking, that she's sad she survived. She has no hope for the future. And without makeup, she looked like a walking corpse. It hurt. I was crushed just listening to her. I cried a lot that day for what happened to my wife, for how far things had fallen. I don't excuse her choices. She made them. She lost. And now she has to live with the consequences. She also told me about the men who beat up my ex, but I'll get to that later. Henrietta is facing charges for making death threats, resisting arrest, dealing, child abuse, DUI, property damage, and grand theft auto. Her bail was denied. The court considers her a flight risk, and I really hope she ends up locked away for a long time. Many of my friends warned that my ex might try to end it all once she realized she was cornered. You were right. She tried. I had warned her father about the possibility. We decided to keep a close eye on her. Thankfully, she still doesn't know I have access to her phone. My ex-wife ultimately passed away while in rehab. We don't know how she got the substances, but it's believed a packet of something burst inside her. It's a heavy story. Let me know in the comments what you think. It's heartbreaking to see what substances can do to people. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Check out our previous video here, and subscribe to our channel for more stories like this. I wish you all the best of health and good luck.